Hello, I'm Richard Gisbert, and you're at The Listening Post. This week, the citizen journalists of Myanmar getting their story out to the world's media. The littlest consumers. Should children be protected from advertising on TV?
You belong to me.
And The Love That Dares Not Speak Its Name, a musical satire starring the president of Iran. Welcome back. Myanmar, the country formerly known as Burma, has topped the global news agenda this past week with mass pro-democracy demonstrations followed by the military government's attempt to re-establish control, in part by taking aim at the media. With most mainstream news outlets on the outside of the country looking in and state-run TV beaming out the government side of the story, much of the coverage the world has been getting has come from ordinary people armed with new technology through camera phones, text messaging, and the internet. That's where we begin this week, with the struggle between a repressive junta and the citizen journalists of Myanmar.
We haven't seen demonstrations like this for about 20 years in Burma, and the world's changed a lot in the past 20 years in terms of media flow.
This thing is very dangerous then, because that military regime, they don't want, like this kind of news leaking out to the country.
There was something about the video coming out of Myanmar. These weren't pictures taken by professional journalists. It was Amateur Hour, a global news story shot by citizen journalists on their own cameras, sometimes even on their phones. And the story often made its way out of Myanmar through bloggers on the outside, like Ko Tai, who was based in London.
Today, I was talking with my friend. He said, there is a shooting. You can hear the shooting, you can listen to it. When I listen to it, yeah, there is a shooting background noise. And then they said, it's altogether about 50 or 60 shots already. Yeah, I heard that it's like a non-stop. Looks like they are using automatic gun on the street. They don't even think about what are they doing. When I was talking with my friend, he was crying.
Much of the story from Myanmar, a country where foreign journalists are virtually banned, has been told through bloggers.
This is new for Burma, and this is kind of Burma's entry into the 21st century of communications. And the government's been very slow off the mark to realize this and to try and beat it down. People have been able to get this information out.
We've seen now in a few short days of the images coming out of Burma, of the human rights abuses, the international community mobilizing. We've had Security Council discussions.
We will impose an expanded visa ban on those.
We're having discussions now about the sanctions that we've been calling for a decade.
The first protests occurred in mid-August, when the government hiked the price of fuel. Then Buddhist monks took to the streets on September 18th. The military regime tolerated that for a week, until the marches escalated into a popular uprising. Then came the crackdown. There was this image, a badly beaten monk, killed, floating in a river, and the Japanese video reporter shot to death at point-blank range. At least 4 foreign journalists were arrested, and reporters from Reuters and Agence France-Presse say they were attacked. Irrawaddy, a magazine that covers Myanmar from this office on the Thai border, reported that 3 other journalists from Myanmar arrested at the demonstrations haven't been seen since. The last time the Myanmar government was challenged on the streets was in 1988, but in terms of media, that was a different world.
People in Mandalay did not really know what was going on in Rangoon. Now people can hear or watch the images or stories or narratives, of what is going on in other parts of the country. There is this Democratic Voice of Burma based in Oslo. Not only are they broadcasting the news of what is going on, a couple of times a day on radio, but they're also feeding these images and news through satellite to the Burmese people inside.
And then there's that new media effect. Word was spreading on the web, and bloggers like Ko Tai were becoming independent news agencies.
Before, I got about maximum 50-60 hit a day as a unique ID, so that's not repeat. Now, yesterday I got 20,000 hit in one day. It's no repeat. So people are a lot of interest in the inside Burma news. When I hear that, I'm so glad, because people know what is going on inside straight away.
Ko Tai was blogging from a safe distance, but the people in Myanmar sending him information and images are at constant risk from the authorities.
If they find out who sent these pictures to me, and then you will never know that what will happen next to him. Sometimes, you know, in the prison for life, sometimes torture, so you will never know. Even though they know these things, all the Burmese people know these things, but they feel like this is their duty for our own country. That's why they keep on sending it to me.
3 days into the crackdown, the government shut down the entire mobile phone system to stop protesters from getting organized through text messages, and they blocked all access to the internet.
One of the ironies here, which some people are laughing about, is that some of the internet service providers in Burma were actually set up by the family of one of the generals in Burma. They saw this as a big money-spinning opportunity, and now it's that technology that is being used against them to try and topple the regime.
All the government could do, or the regime could do, is cut off or shut down the mobile services, the networks, but they cannot, like, confiscate mobile telephone. And also, we've got tourists that go there. That's why tourists are very, very important. The regime cannot stop tourists from taking pictures or taking video shots.
Myanmar's state-run TV lives in a world of its own. Among the pictures it aired during the uprising, Buddhist monks, placid, looking anything but political. And it attacked foreign media broadcasting into Myanmar via satellite.
VOA and BBC, sky full of liars. And some foreign broadcasting stations are airing the fabricated news gathered by the persons they hired with wages.
It reminds me of TV broadcasts from cheesy communist countries in Eastern Europe back in the 50s, with rickety sets and a squeaky-voiced female announcer, and it's really mind-numbing stuff.
But just like 1988, the generals remain in power. There's that old adage, don't shoot the messenger. Now, in this new age of the citizen journalist, many people in Myanmar could find themselves in the line of fire. Our Global Village Voices now on the coverage of the Myanmar story.
The Burmese government, although they are traditionally quite effective in controlling things on a national level, they are really up against technologies and tools which the demonstrators can tap into, which are truly international in scope. And so, although the Burmese authorities can use, on a short-term basis, quite crude tactics like simply closing down internet portals, blocking phone calls, effectively pulling the plug. They can do that for a while, but I seriously doubt they can sustain it.
What the democracy campaigners are doing is they use other proxy servers to get the information outside the country to the international communities. But even that is now under tight control. So it is very difficult to relay the message from inside the country.
If you'd like to be one of our Global Village Voices, just email us at listeningpost@aljazeera.net. We'll take you through the technology so you can be heard on what's wrong and right with global media. Listening Post News Bites now. The information war between Hamas and Fatah also includes disinformation from time to time. Here's an example of that. The Jerusalem Post recently received a supposedly exclusive video of what Fatah intelligence officials called an honor killing in Gaza, a 16-year-old girl murdered for dishonoring her family. But bloggers spotted that the video was actually from a murder that occurred in northern Iraq earlier this year. Fatah tried to pass off the video as something it wasn't in order to discredit their Hamas rivals. Since the Hamas takeover of Gaza, Israel has banned its reporters from going there, making Israeli news media much more reliant on handouts from Fatah and Hamas for their information. The U.S. newspaper chain McClatchy has since reported that the same honor-killing video was making the rounds in Syria last month via email and cell phones. There, the killing was blamed on the Druze minority in the country's south. Remember all those Pakistani lawyers protesting against the Musharraf government earlier this year? Well, now the country's journalists have joined in. They took part in a black day of protests to condemn the way Pakistani police have been beating anti-government demonstrators. More than 30 journalists were reported to be injured in the most recent rally, along with 13 police officers. Pakistan is preparing to go to the polls, and journalists, lawyers, and opposition parliamentarians are all accusing President Musharraf of curtailing their freedoms. The elder statesmen of Japan's newspaper industry have been taking a beating from their younger online competitors, so they're banding together to fight back. 3 of Japan's leading newspapers, the Yomiuri Shimbun, the Asahi Shimbun, and the Nikkei Business Daily, plan to bury their competitive rivalries, at least temporarily, to create a joint news website. They hope that the site will help increase their readership amongst younger Japanese. The president of Asahi Shimbun predicts that newspapers around the world, which are also struggling to cope with online competition, could eventually follow their lead. President Hugo Chavez, who recently shut down an opposition television channel for trying to overthrow him, is going on the air in Venezuela and staying there. Chavez recently put on an impressive 8-hour-long performance on his weekly TV talk show, El Presidente. For sheer stamina, it was a performance worthy of those Soviet Politburo speeches from the Brezhnev era, except that Chavez took questions from his audience, ranted about teenagers getting breast implants, and even broke into song.
Avivan la candela, el viento marinés, y el sol de la victoria alumbra en Santa Inés. Oligarca, temblad, viva la libertad.
El Presidente is Chavez's official talk show, but Venezuela watchers say he doesn't limit his on-air time to that. He's known for making policy pronouncements and for hiring and firing aides while on television. And Britain's hugely successful Pop Idol franchise that's been exported all over the world has ended up indirectly provoking riots in India. Prashant Tamang, the winner of Indian Idol 3, is of Nepalese origin. When an Indian radio station made him the butt of an ethnic joke, 2,000 people in West Bengal vented their anger on the streets. They brought the city of Siliguri to a halt, and more than 60 people were reported injured. The government has since put the radio station on notice over possible legal action. The authorities in West Bengal could have used Tamang's help in quelling the crowd. He's a former policeman. But now that he's a pop star, he asked that his fans remain calm. Coming up after the break, television advertisers target children. We'll look at whether that should be allowed.